Catalonia has 7.5 million inhabitants, about as many as Bulgaria. The Catalan, in their prosperous region in northeastern Spain, speak their own language. Ambitions to become independent have been there for decades. Ahead of today's referendum on the question of independence, which the Spanish government says is illegal, tensions in the region were rising. Spanish police were trying to make sure schools could not be used as polling stations, while members of the independence movement occupied buildings in an attempt to achieve the opposite. Narcís Parés, 51, is an associate tenure professor in the ICT department of Universitat Pompeu Fabra in Barcelona, with a background in audiovisual communication, and a strong advocate of Catalonia's independence. Emmanuel Marcus asked him some questions. The Sofia Globe, TSG, how long have you waited for this moment, and did you ever think the independence movement would get this far? Narcís Parés, I have been waiting for this moment all my life, literally since I was born, because the Catalan identity was transferred to me by my parents, and to them by their parents, and similarly going back in time. My grandparents left Catalonia during the Spanish Civil War because they did not wish to live in a place in which their freedom of speech, their freedom to maintain cultural traditions, their freedom of transmitting these traditions onto their children, was completely forbidden. So I was born in Mexico, being a Catalan Mexican with my mother tongue being Catalan, my second language Mexican Spanish, and my third language English. When I went to live to Barcelona in 1983, at age 17, I had a strong feeling for independence at a time in which it was something to be almost ashamed of. This is how oppressed the Catalan society felt for a long time. So, no, at that point I wasn't expecting this to occur 34 years after. However, for the last 10 years the Catalan society has been waking up, probably in most cases because of the economic discrimination, but also because of the cultural discrimination. At this moment in time I constantly think of my grandparents. I will vote tomorrow thinking about them, but more importantly thinking on my children and our future. TSG, what is the situation in Barcelona, with all of those Spanish police officers on site? Do you expect tensions between them and those who want independence? Narcís Parés, the situation in Barcelona is peaceful and festive. We are all very excited to vote. However, we are extremely cautious with the maneuvers by the Spanish government, because we really don't know what to expect. We are none less committed to defending our right of free speech and our right of being whatever we wish to be. TSG, the Mossos d'Esquadra are supposed to cooperate with the police, according to Spanish law. Might they still try to make sure the referendum can go ahead, e.g. by giving people access to polling stations? Narcís Parés, the Mossos have clear instructions to keep people from voting. However, there is a very important point, which is that they will act within a level of proportionality that is adequate at every one moment. What this means is that if they need to use force measures, while there are too many people on site, they will probably desist. This is why we are getting organized to have as much people as we can at every single voting location, always in a peaceful attitude and with a smile in our faces. However, we are afraid to have infiltrates with the goal of generating noise and aggression, and give the Spanish forces, the Guardia Civil and the Policía Nacional, the excuse to act with greater forcefulness. We have had some of this in the past few days, but we have always kept our eyes open and have discovered and denounced these infiltrates, in order to keep the peaceful and constructive spirit we are all working for. TSG, in your eyes, has there actually been a proper campaign for and against independence, ahead of the referendum? Narcís Parés, indeed not, and unfortunately not. Our institutions have tried to make this referendum open to everyone. That means for both advocates and opponents of independence for Catalonia. We have offered a dialogue to opponents, asking them to speak up and provide the reasons they have for not wanting independence. However, unionists, especially fostered by Spanish parties in general, not only the right-wing Partido Popular who is currently in power, but also the supposedly left-wing PSOE and others, have taken the stance of not even wanting to talk about the possibility of a referendum. They have claimed from the beginning that this was a non-constitutional act and that they did not wish to talk about it. I am not a jurist. However, I have read many opinions from both sides and it seems to me that Unionists have a very biased interpretation of the Spanish Constitution. Also, it looks like a referendum like the one we are trying to organize would be perfectly legal. Since they have